Good afternoon. Welcome to the 22nd lecture from IF NCTS. In our endeavor to share knowledge, not only related to technology, we try to introduce newer topics to our audience. Last Tuesday, we heard about importance of gaining working knowledge of financials and market conditions for technical team. Today, we will get to know something about business communication and branding. In current situation, when every business is trying to rise again, today's discussion is going to help us more. To help us understand the subject, we have Ms. Kolhatkar with us, marketer, branding and communication specialist who is passionate about adding life experiences for continuous learning. She brings with her 16 years of solid experience in marketing, branding and communications, in B2B business model in Atlas Copco and B2C business model in Philips Electronics India.
I am really lucky to get this opportunity to interact with a group from IIF NCTS, and I thank Mr. Soni to give me this interaction opportunity. Uh, the idea today would be to share what I have learned over years, number of years, having moved from marketing, sales to branding and communication, and finally set up my own venture, which is purely into marketing, branding, and communication. The interesting part is that having moved from B2C model to B2B has always got me closer to two different business models and probably attain some kind of balance, different learning, different exposures in both the companies that I work for. And now that I have several 30 plus clients that my setup works for. So maybe should we start off? I mean, should I put the presentation? Yeah. So today what we are going to discuss is your business story, my business story, and everybody else's business stories. That industry we belong, the scale, the age of company, wherever we may be located, what position that we hold in the market, there is no bar for narrating a business story. So it can be something that a very large company to a very small company, a very specialized service offering company, and maybe it could be something which is an Indian company, it could be a multinational, it could be 50 years old, and it could be 5 years old. Each one of us has a business story, and that is important that we are narrating this to all our stakeholders. So first and foremost, we say there is no bar, like we always say, age no bar. So here there are several other things which are also no bar for a business story. Now, when you see this, there are several pieces of communication we go through, whether it's through advertisements on television. Now we have completely what you can call as consume entertainment as per your requirement. You can have ads, you can have radio, you can have you're watching YouTube, you're seeing hoardings, you see banners. So you have a mix of traditional and digital media, and all of it are telling you so many several things, right? So this is all around us, and probably somewhere we start to see that these are the channels through which we are going and reaching to our customers or all our stakeholders. The reality is every business does not need all this to tell their story. So most of the times when the whole idea is about going through mass channel, and which may be and is true for B2C businesses, the fast moving goods businesses, I would say yes, because we are talking to the masses and we are talking to most of the population, and hence we need to use the channels which also reach them. So we kind of, while we know there is dilution, we are still spreading ourselves thin. We use several of them. So you might see a particular brand selling soap and toothpaste which is on the television, which is also on the radio. You see digital ads popping onto your cell phone, or when you're checking your mails on the laptop. So several places they will try to catch you, apart from the fact that there will be several traditional collaterals which are in the store that you're buying your product. You may see them while you're on passing the road in form of bus shelters and several places that you visit. You kind of keep seeing them now and then. And hence that feeling is that, okay, unless and until you are this bigger brand, you are in this industry, there is no other way otherwise to reach people. So I think let's look at where we are coming from and what is it that we need to do for our business. I mean, what matters for a business is definitely reaching the existing customers and the prospects with the latest. So even before I go into the foundation of how we build a story or what are the necessary ingredients to get the recipe right, I would say that first things first is that we need to know, are we reaching out to our customers with our new offerings? Have we updated them with the latest upgraded facilities? Have we put the repository of case studies together to be able to showcase our competencies and the collective experience that we are gathering? The different kind and level of training that we're giving to our teams. We could be having technology partners, for instance, and we may be getting them trained in those facilities to be able to even perform better than what they did before. All our accomplishment, recognition, rewards from the customer, from the industry, and elsewhere. So I think, irrespective of where we belong, which industry, what size, etc., that we have of our business, extremely important part is that this latest information reaches our stakeholder, because last time probably we made an attempt may have been that old frame which is in the mind of your customer. Now what again happens is the customer is also referring us to other people, and probably what he would do many a times is whatever been his limited experience with us, probably he is only using a part of our offerings, or he may have had only very specific experience with us, and he is probably or she's probably only going to share that with uh, his or her network. And I think here, I mean, even from the kind of business that I come in from, so we do branding and communication, and it's been a while that we probably have not got in touch with some of our customers, wherein we did some projects and over a period they did not need any service from us, or probably it so happened that they had somebody else doing it for them and we lost touch. And then suddenly we were able to share, okay, what have been our last 5 or 6 months of work that we have been doing, which was something different which we never offered earlier. Taking it from the COVID times, we were not doing virtual conferences for clients, and now last 6 months we have been offering that kind of facilitation to our clients, where we say, okay, we conduct your complete online event. And that's where it again comes to my mind that having the latest with our customers, existing and prospect, is one of the first step that we could do even before we are narrating the story. So I think this is something that we can decide how do we want to do it. So I just thought I will take an example which is very relevant to all of us, because we know this is one of the examples from one of the foundry brands. And I thought it was okay, it was snippets and probably different things that they had put together. It is not only for the external stakeholders, but it would also mean information to the employees, to the business partners. So there are several stakeholders, it's not just the customers. And I think that is where I feel that being able to go back to our customers, stakeholders, let me not just say customers, with the latest is something which is like a ritual that a company decides to practice. So I think this is something that I feel is really nice to go back and tell, okay, this is what we have been doing in the last 6 months, 8 months, 3 months, depends on the pace of the industry that we are talking about. So in some cases, maybe they have to go more frequently. In some cases, maybe it's a good frequency that once in a quarter that we are able to go back and share how the last quarter has been. Then we go back to something which is more a foundation, I would say, that after the first thing first of sharing where we are at the moment, I would park that aside for a while and then start to look at what do we stand for, because this is one of the very fundamental things that we need to have documented, because our entire communication, whether it is for the products or otherwise, will always be based or will and should support what we want to establish ourselves in the minds of our stakeholders. So we are known for, and we want to be known for. Now, sometimes the companies get it absolutely right, where they are exactly being known for what they are known for. This was again one of our recent meetings that I had gone for to a client, and they are a 10-year-old business, so not very old actually, but yeah, maybe 11 years or so in the market now. And they wanted to go back to their clients to refresh about who they are, lot than what they had initially started to offer. So I think they were calling it rebranding. And then I realized when I went through the entire understanding of what they do and where they are, and I saw a very nicely made website and this and that. And I was wondering, and then I thought, yeah, I mean, probably they can just continue all the external elements, like whether it's a logo or a tagline, etc., to be as is. But going back to the prospects, to the industry, to the stakeholders, and narrating what they have been in the last 10 years was important, because they had got fixed into some kind of identity which people carried for long now. So when I mean that what we are known for and what we want to be known for, in case if there is a gap, I think there is a good possibility to go back. Now, in some cases, maybe we have also had rebranding for some companies where probably they had done something maybe 25, 30 years ago, and from then on it's been a long journey. They have probably expanded into multiple maybe manufacturing units. They may have entered new countries, new markets. Maybe they've diversified in the process and a whole lot of things, but probably that whole communication has not been put together and sent, or given in a organized and a structured format. I'm sure when they are meeting their customers, obviously they're sharing it, but there's a good possibility now they can put the complete story and kind of use that to ensure that they are known for what they want to be known for. Even the different associations. So once defined, I think then it's much easier to align the entire communication with this positioning. Because what happens is that when we have defined, documented, I think we have the complete fleet, the entire population of the company, the employees are with us on this. Because if we do not probably document, then it is at times only with the senior management or the steering group. And the way the employees down the run who are less exposed to these this environment, or who are not your employees who are front enders, they are not outside, may have bits and pieces of information. So once it's documented, it's there, everybody's going to use it. So I think that becomes important, that ritual of documenting becomes important. Now, if we are talking of business that we all belong to, so say for example, I also consider myself as a part of this team and into castings. Now here, if I see, we are talking about innovation, technology, competent, some of them are global, a trustworthy, reliable brand that you have built over years. Now these associations are built when we have defined the positioning. So we ensure that the way we present ourselves to the stakeholders is taking into account all of this. So I think we need to define and then get forward with the kind of positioning that we already have, but we want to further strengthen. In some cases, we may want to bridge it. Now, what do we intend to define? So, yes, of course, the positioning, that what we stand for, core values. Now, core values are typically the values we want to take forward from the culture, the working culture, the company culture, the organization culture that we have. So, be it a small or a large organization, it doesn't matter. There are always the core values which define a place. Now, here again, our experience, my experience, especially with the companies that I have been in the process of helping them re-articulate, in the core values, these are values you will see which are very common, and sometimes, say for example, trustworthy. Now this is used by maybe multiple brands, or it could be respectful, used, honesty, integrity, commonly used words. So one of our client once said that, these are very motherhood statements and nobody really gets what is it. And it is like you just remove the logo and you put another logo, and it can just you can just swap and nobody would even realize. And I agree with what he said. So here what we say is that whatever values that we take as a company are in the context of our company. So as long as we are able to define that context. So it was very nice that every core value, so for instance, if it's integrity or if it's honesty or trustworthy, respectful, now that was defined in the context of that company. So I think then people start to get closer. And a lot of them have even taken a step forward by recognizing that behavior within the company. So core values are not just left to being a nice board which is put on the wall and then probably it is shared during some annual event or maybe some kind of a celebration which is like 25 years complete or 50 years complete, but it is something that how the management would like the employees to see it in their day-to-day life. So innovation is not just about product. Innovation is about even the way we do things. So I had this fantastic opportunity to write a small blog for one of our client on innovation, and they are a material handling and lean automation brand. And so I was to write on innovation and I was taking the briefing from the client. So I said, okay, what do we write about innovation? So he said the founder of the company, who's a Korean, he said that innovation technology is a given. So he said, okay, this level of technology we can reach and it's there. So, that's not innovation right now. So I said, okay, then what do we write? So then he said that the way they had extended the solution to their OE in one of the countries with the limitations the customer, the OE has with respect to probably the budget and a couple of other things is where innovation came in. And he said that they wanted to go into, I mean, their OE client wanted to move into lean automation, but the kind of budget they had was only going to allow, I think, one cell to have lean automation and not both the cells. But the way these people were able to bring completely out of the box solution was innovation. So I think values in the context of that company, yes, I think that really then starts to resonate with every employee. Then every employee can really feel one with it. Yeah, okay. Even in my work, if probably I am a receptionist, or probably if I'm looking at the administration which is a back end role. But that doesn't mean that there is no innovation just because it's a technical service providing company, or if it's a manufacturing company that only products and innovation are only related to products. So I think core values become important, how they form a part of our culture. Then taking forward, now how do we build this? So we need some kind of a Bible, some kind of a ritual, some kind of a guiding line which kind of defines the do's and don'ts. So how to use the logo? I think this is a very common but obvious, but still it does get abused when people try to be creative. So I think because multiple people handle it, it's not that people would want to do it sometimes intentionally, but it does happen. So I think having guidelines on how the logo would be used, really strict guidelines. Messaging. Now, messaging, if we decide to change the tone in every communication, it's very difficult to create that positioning. So when we define and document a position, I think our messaging has to be filtered with that position. So are we further building, strengthening this position when we are communicating? So whether it's about product, whether it is about our CSR, whether it is about any other communication that goes out of the company. So I think visuals and messaging have to be aligned to the positioning that we have agreed. So identity is building that positioning basically. It's like a toolbox, is how I would say. Power of repetition is one more thing. Many times we realize that power of repetition has to be explained because everybody thinks that every time we do something different, it's creative. And for justifying the creativity, sometimes we lose track. So we really have to sometimes plead to our clients that power of repetition. I mean that visual, that statement sometimes has to be there for people to grasp enough. And especially in the industry we are talking, where we have fewer opportunities to go to our audiences, all the more it becomes important that we use the power of repetition. Because in cases where probably there are a lot of opportunities where we are talking to our audiences, maybe we still can use different ways of saying the same thing but differently. But I think when we are really going through a number of times, it's good to kind of remain with what we are saying until we really have made that impact on the minds of our stakeholders. Another thing is every employee has to be used to its best for being and for building our image with the stakeholders, because it's not just the front enders. I think our every employee is interacting to the outside world in the role or outside the role, and then it's very important that all the employees are included in this process. And I remember, and I have good fond memories when I was working with Atlas Copco, that we had this ritual every year that the department head had to conduct a process wherein they would take us through the way the company, I mean, it used to be called as the Atlas Copco way. So we had to go through this ritual every year. So the department head was responsible, ensuring all the reportees have gone through this, and at point you felt, okay, is this necessary? And today I think sitting here I would say that yes, it was important, because it's only over a time that people start to really get the crux of it. So it may not be the round one or two really make an impact, but the employees have to be taken through this process. And it's as simple as I had once gone to one of my clients' place, and he was talking about doing a program for building the core values with the employees. And while saying this, I mean, I had actually quit Atlas Copco by then, and I was already on my own. And yet, when I spoke, and even today, I would speak with the same, I would say, enthusiasm and excitement, that I'm really proud to have been working with such two phenomenal market leader brands. And I was like so excited talking to the client, that the client said, oh, okay, I want, I want this kind of enthusiasm in my employees. And why did this happen is because somewhere the company has invested in employees like me to make us feel so blue-blooded about the brand. So I think it's important that we use this. So anybody who, and it's a matter of pride. I mean, anybody, when I went and I told I have worked with Philips India, I have worked with Atlas Copco, I took tremendous pride about it. So I think it's important that we have used every employee, not just the front enders, to build this image in the external world, because that's how people see that, okay, this person proudly puts across that I have worked with this brand. And I think it makes a lot of difference. So I think this is also something important. Equally important is what to do and what not to do, because many a times we have several people who are going to be creating material communication. Not every time it's possible that it's centrally done. So you would have HR. Sometimes there are people in the maybe shop floor. Somebody's in charge. Somebody has interest. Somebody is doing it in another department. So do's and don'ts would make it. I would say, or it's basically for safeguarding that we have the do's and don'ts. So our identity remains intact. So we kind of put this whole process where we document and define our position, our core values. Then we have the identity. Identity is what? It's just a toolbox. So we say how to use the logo, not to use the logo, what messaging. Yes, messaging matrix one has to develop. So if we have 4 business verticals, maybe there is a matrix which is developed. What are the key messages? What are the secondary messages? So that whenever even whoever is explaining the product or the service, we ensure the hierarchy. So we are not telling the last benefit the first, because there is a reason why first is the first. So I think if the messaging matrix is developed, then automatically there is consistency in the way it is presented to the stakeholders. And I think that is kind of a back end identity toolbox that we build, so that when we are presenting ourselves to any stakeholder, so whether it is just an HR inducting a new employee, or somebody who is probably going to join us, to our sales team who's on the field, to somebody from finance who's talking to somebody outside, but we are all aware as to how we are expected to present our products, our business, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So I think this kind of brings in some kind of, I would say, standardization and more impactful presentations, because then we don't leave it for individual presentations, we interpretations, because otherwise there will be several people and may not be that they are already used to this, so they would make their own best version, of course, but that may not be the best in terms of how the company wants to be seen by the external world. So for this, what do we need to create? I think for sure the B2B exposure definitely was the best in my line of work, is to make what is relevant. In B2C, yes, I would admit and confess that there would be several things that we would make because we always knew we have to talk to the masses. So it required us to kind of do 20 things. We knew that each one had a little role to play. We would try our best to plan what are the most impactful tools, but still, I would say the overall basket was full of activities. Coming to a B2B kind of business model, it gave us that relevant as a being relevant as a filter to be used because we definitely said yes. I mean, what matters is what we will do, of course. Now, here I would say, even today, whether it is B2C or B2B, I think being around, sticking around the business objectives. What are the business objectives? Like sometimes if we go to clients and then say, okay, we want to create this. So we again kind of pull them a couple steps behind and we say, okay, what are your business objectives for the next 6 months or 3 months or 1 year? And basis on that, we say, okay, then we of course would spend some time understanding their business, their stakeholders, what is their customer acquisition cycle, because that is again completely different. Having worked for a construction and mining company like Atlas Copco, I mean, it's different when it is compressors, it's different when it's mining, it's different when it is construction equipment, industrial tools. So it changes across. So now we work for also a lot of auto components. It again changes. So we need to have this base understood. And on this, then we decide that what really needs to be done. So I've just listed a few things which I feel are critical, important, and to be thought about, and maybe something which is already there for you, and you just might want to upgrade or you just want to revisit. A website, yes, all said and done, it is the digital introduction because a lot of times our prospects are just going and checking us on the website. So I think that is something which, all said and done, it's also like a place where you can store a lot of information, you can update the new, and it also has an archive. So I think overall a person would get a good idea of our business, what we do from the website. And I think that's why it still plays an important role. Company profile, I would say again, because we have a lot of clients who again get company profiles done for us for a reason that it's our introduction. So we cut it, we trim it to our introduction. So we say who we are, our capabilities and offerings, how we work, and it kind of leads to a, I would say, call to action that they might want to know more or they might want to connect with us to understand how to work, etc., etc. Now, this can company profile come in various ways. It can be soft or it can be hard leaflets. It can be e-brochures or it can be printed. There are leaflets. There could be videos using 3D animation also. Because what happens is many a times we work for engineering companies and where sometimes they're not able to show the product unless they use 3D animation. Like, in fact, one example, I mean, one story I should share with you with a company which is US based company, one of the largest companies, and they're into heat furnaces. And the whole process is not something that you can really take somebody inside or make people visualize. And when you want to show what your product does or what your furnaces do, I think they had to use 3D animation. So in fact, they had a complete cell dedicated for creating this. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to show. Also, every time they gave this solution was different for their different clients. So they had to have case studies which are using 3D animation and some shoot probably to give an idea what are the different varying solutions that they've been able to give in the segment. Yeah. So I think it's important for a company to understand what and how their profile will be most effective. So whether it's of course, I mean, there will be somebody from the company, whether physically present or virtually, or send something as a leave behind literature, whatever. But what is the tool which will make their profile more impactful when you're going to present it? I would say repository of case studies extremely important because it shows your body of work. So the competencies and capabilities, especially when we're talking about B2B, most important. And wherever we've worked with clients where they don't have products but they kind of build solutions, case studies have been the heartline for them. So even the material handling and the lean automation company I just mentioned a little while ago, for them the case studies becomes extremely important because they are not selling a product, they're selling a solution. So they said every time we go, the client will say that this and this and this is their challenge. And then we kind of say that, okay, now this is the solution that we propose. So it is very customized and hence needs to be a part of the case study. They are not selling off the shelf standard products. So I think very important. We can also really put across the competencies and capabilities absolutely impactfully using the case studies. I would say LinkedIn is important because as you all may see that it's a network, I mean, it's a networking platform and for professional reasons. Indeed, barring a few exceptions, but I think people stick to and they know how they should be seen on LinkedIn. So I think that's another place that one could be present. The entire leadership could be, and of course is most of the times present, but it can be used probably for the company for various I would say sharings that we have, various learnings that we have, and to establish that image where if we are the experts in a particular line of work. So I think it can really help us. It can help us extend our reach. So I think this is something which we can think about. Even apart from LinkedIn, there would be platforms where we may, so there are several, like we write blogs for our clients. And so instead of promoting the whole communication on our own, which takes a whole lot of energy, what is already popular is where we go and participate. I think that kind of helps us to ride faster because there's something which is already promoted by someone or some other forum, and all you need to be is present there, and then already focused audiences there because you are talking to the people to whom it matters. I mean, you're not putting an ad in Times of India which will just go off in a day and then there is nothing left behind. So I think being present on these forums again is very, very important. So once we had created a series of emailers for one of our clients who had a product, and this product could be used in several industries. Now, when it is used in several industries, the product was the same, but the way we had put the communication was relevant to that segment. So, for example, if that product was going in textile industry, in cement, in power, in gas, and several other, so we had used the same product, but the features which we were highlighting were relevant to that particular segment. So, I think that was something where that can be done when updates are being sent. LinkedIn page, of course, can be updated. It can be something as simple as having your slide in the regular presentation updated. So whatever the reason could be, that maybe there is a new, completely new technology center built in, or a research lab built in, or some technology collaboration which has happened, or something which is a new machinery which is gotten, so added capacity. So whatever be, if that is put and only that it becomes a part of the will reach people. Otherwise, it might be only a few of them who are proactively sharing it. But when it's published, I think it has larger chance of reaching more and more number of people. We've also been doing a lot of coffee table books. I think this is something where we've seen that people who celebrated 25 years, 50 years, 30 years, 40 years, actually it can be any number of years. Because like I remember in Atlas Copco, we had this 140 years of celebration, and somebody asked my boss, and she was heading the global communication and governmental affairs, and so I said, I mean, she was asked this question by many leaders that in the company that why would 140 years? I mean, it either is 100, 125, 150, but it came down to that it is a occasion that year long you create some kind of connect. So if it's some completion, so let's say it's 35 years and not 25, so that entire year, you're going back with certain theme. You're telling them, even if you do dealer meet, you do sales meet, or you create some special giveaways, or you are kind of doing some event. So you kind of build some kind of an anchoring point, and then you're putting all these different events under one. So I think it's sometimes also to find an opportunity. Like we find an opportunity sometimes to invite people home, and it's not always a festival. So we cannot just say, okay, so something which we don't really celebrate, but we just decide, okay, let's all be together on this day. So I think it's a matter of how you can build these reasons with your customers, your business partners, your dealers, distributors, if they are in the supply chain. There could be influencers, like in mining. We had this large community who influence. They are basically consultants, and they have a huge role when they recommend a certain brand to be bought, or a certain kind of mining, say surface mining, if it's coal mining, it's underground, this, that. So I think it's a reason why you go back to people, communicate, you kind of remind them, you tell them, and you kind of build this over a year. So you get a good 1 year when you are kind of building this communication with them, also with your employees. So I think this is somewhere which still remains relevant to the industry we are talking about, and we are not really adding glamour or faff because it just has to be and everybody does it. No, I have not even mentioned Facebook, because I feel that Facebook is something most of the times less formal, and the companies are also using it as trying to put the I would say employee life on, or working at this in this place on Facebook, because Facebook is not something which is like a LinkedIn where you're putting serious matter. But of course, Facebook can be used for still promoting certain events within the company. If a company has offices across countries, like in Atlas Copco, it was 200 countries. So there, the Facebook really plays a role. But yeah, you can't really have the trimmed approach to Facebook. So it's more informal than formal. So I've not even really bothered to list it here, because yeah, that's a little bit, I would say, a very subjective approach, and doesn't come into the must do, or yeah, so it's good to do kind of thing. I'm talking about the industry that today we are in. So if somebody is into the business of fitness and fashion and food, I think Facebook becomes their primary platform to really connect. Instagram, of course, again, I've not even mentioned that here. So I think even if we do the basics, which we see as really good, I think it gives us a good opportunity to kind of keep going back to our prospects. Yeah. The advantages we stand to win, of course, it's more than known, but just to summarize, yeah, it's an easier dialogue with stakeholders. They know what you're doing, and they're really proud of you, and they would like to recommend you and your employees as well. Everybody has a very updated, good feeling about what progress, what growth has happened over last whatever years or months, or the period. We can keep going back to our prospects. Prospects are people who are not still engaged with us, right? They're neither our employees, they're neither our customers or business partners, but they are our prospects. And I think they keep probably following us, or they kind of try to find out about us. And I think we give them good feed in the wild. Yeah. So they kind of start to form that impression about who we are. Also, automatically there is consistency in the communication, because we have defined the foundation base, we have defined our messaging, and hence our communication is consistent, and that leads to awareness and finally the recall. So when we know what we stand for, and we are saying that over and over again in our communication, even if we are using different expressions, but we know what we are communicating, I think it's kind of going back to to our stakeholders, and it starts to kind of take that place into their minds, how they think about us. Yeah. So I think we are able to get there with all the previous steps that we spoke. So right from putting and defining our positioning, core values, creating that identity, creating the material which has the essence of our positioning, and then coming to and saying that yes, we are building people, we are building events. A simple example I could give is, which I have not put here, is also about customer feedback. And I think customer feedback is I have seen very differently in different companies. So in some companies it's a absolute ritual, and you go back to your customers and you find out. And in some companies it is more subjective. So the people who are front enders will take the feedback, they will write down and they will submit. And maybe in some companies they're not doing it as regular. So this is one more way again that you create an opportunity to interact with your customers. Now in businesses, like we had one client who said, "Oh, we have only 20 customers. You know, that's our business." So fantastic. So 20 customers, in fact, even better. That you can really ensure that you are having that dialogue with them. So I think having a customer feedback as a process, if it's needed a year, once in a year, once in 2 years, but there has to be a frequency which is also set in, because that will lead to probably also for us to plan certain corrective actions, course corrections, and then also later on see if that has resulted into any improvement. So it could be small things, but once we gather that from the customer, I think we are able to put an action plan. So it may be just one or two things that are seen as an action plan. But yes, we have an opportunity to measure ourselves over a period and say, okay, so this was the feedback, and these were the corrective actions we put in, and then after over a period, we see that is whether there's an improvement. So I think it gives some kind of a reason for us again to be with our customers, not just about for good things, but also some things that we may want to improve. So that's another point we include. Doesn't come exactly in communication, but I think customer feedback is very, very important. Yeah. And one more point which I probably lost mentioning earlier, and I would like to repeat, is that whenever we are doing any activity, we need to know what is the frequency that we need to do it. Because if it is not done enough, chances are we will just spend energy, but we may not be able to gather something out of it or gain something out of it. So I think here I would say that it's important, read anything, even if it's trade magazines, and probably you're looking at doing some editorials or ads. I mean, one of the simple examples in trade magazines or participation in exhibition. I think it should be done to a level, I mean, with that intensity and frequency that you really kind of own that place. You're doing it so that you are going to gain out of it. Because if it's just going to be a one-off activity, chances are very high, or rather, definitely, that you might just kind of not be able to get something which you may desire to. Yeah. And yeah, so I think just to make a quick summary is that so business story is extremely important. It has to be refreshed, it has to be enhanced, it needs to keep going back to the customers even if there may be few of them, because employees are new, prospects are new, employees at our customers places are changing. So I think that whole idea of going back with our story to the stakeholders is important. And to be able to do that not once but regularly, we put the whole process of making certain documentation about our positioning, core values, creating that identity, how the messaging will happen. So what I need to say first, I mean, if I'm in the business where I need to talk about creativity, I mean, that's something which I need to talk first, not last. So I think putting that matrix and putting up a kind of an annual agenda, that what is it that this year we might want to achieve, which is in line with the business objectives for that year, I think is a good way to kind of be able to reach more and many people. And sometimes you want to even reach people who may never be your customers. You're in a particular city, and in that city, why should people not know that you are providing employment? They may not be your customers, they may not be your business partners, they may not be your employees, but they're proud citizens of that city, and they will certainly feel nice to have somebody like you who's providing employment. So I think this is where it comes from, that every business has a story, and every story should reach the maximum number of people who matter to us. So yeah, this is all that I have.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Samida. Thank you for introducing us to a totally new subject.
Thank you.
In our Foundry Month's day, there are always production defects, dispatches. That's all in our mind, occupying in our minds. And all our actions are directed to cater them. Some of us at senior level may have to look at financial issues, but then today we learned that apart from all these, we also need to focus on establishing, or rather re-establishing ourselves in the market through communication, messages, and everything. Thank you. Thank you. I also thank all the attendees for supporting us. Thank you all.